Hello everybody, Texas Man here. I hope that you guys are all having a spectacular day. If you guys would please give this video a thumbs up. If you guys do enjoy it, subscribe. Of course, if you guys have not already, also do me the biggest favor of all, make sure you guys hit the bell notification button. Select all for all notifications so you guys don't miss out on a single video. And I also do stream on Twitch at Douglas447. Stream there at least once a week, whether it's Halo, Battlefield, Call of Duty, Destiny 2, X Defiant, whatever you guys would like me to stream over there, some Starfield stuff, make sure you guys head over there. I try to stream there at least once a week for at least 2 hours. And we're going to be kicking off our reviews of the Digimon series. Yes, Digimon, okay? I mean, I literally have a Digimon poster. Okay? I like Digimon. I can't help it. So, you might be confused and be like, why is he talking about Digimon? It's the rival to Pokemon. The thing that I have kind of like solidified myself as a Pikachu Pokemon lover. Why am I talking about a rival TV show? Well, I want to talk about the fact that it's easier to talk about Digimon than it is Pokemon. Now, before you click away, let me explain for a second, okay? When is it that you have been able to watch a Pokemon just from start to finish, and be able to understand what's going on in a whole season from start to finish? Because, like, the movies really didn't help in that sense when it came to Pokemon. The show just, it went wild. Pokemon, no pun intended, went wild with its characters, okay? You had characters constantly popping in and out every season. It was a jumbled mess. Like, the only connective tissue that was actually held together, honestly, was Ash Ketchum. But you had all of these other characters constantly popping in and out, in and out, in and out. And because of that, you really didn't get time to get attached to characters, because by the time you got invested in the character, they would shove them off and bring in a new one and start the same process over and over again. Digimon Season 1 is 54 episodes, about 20 minutes long for each. And in that 54 episodes, they don't swap characters in and out, okay? They don't do that. You've got your essential 7 characters for the show. And then as the show progresses, they add on more characters. Like, the show starts off with 7 young children. They add in an 8th. And then they add in the parents. And then they add on more Digimon, more boss battles, more villains, more lore, more character arcs and development. And they do that in a gradual progression over the course of the 54 episodes. You don't get that in Pokemon. So, in terms of storytelling quality in that sense, in terms of being able to keep track of what character is doing what and why and where and how and when, Digimon does that much better than Pokemon ever did. Okay? So that's the first positive about Digimon, is it doesn't constantly do this juggling act when it comes to characters, okay? It doesn't have a new character just come in for like 10 episodes and then ditch and then show up 3 seasons later and be like, this is what I've been doing for the past 3 years. Okay? It doesn't do that. Digimon doesn't do that. It sticks with a central core cast and it runs with it for a full season. So, like I said, Digimon Season 1, it focuses on young children that get transported into this digital world. And there they end up befriending these monsters that end up training with them to battle evil threats, both to the digital world and to the human world. And the digital world basically is the construct. It's kind of like a Matrix version of this kid thing. So this digital world where the Digimon live has been created by the invention of the internet. So, because of that, Digimon is a very relatable story in the fact that the usage of the internet language to explain Digimon and the digital world allows not just for children to be able to understand and enjoy the show, but adults can too. Because obviously, when this show came out in 1999, yeah, when the internet was started to be a thing and come into mainstream, the show really incorporated those complicated internet things into a show that was, for the most part, easy to understand for children and adults alike. Now, like I said earlier, the show has 54 episodes. Each are about 20 minutes in total. And to me, that's fine. It just makes it where it's easy to binge watch. Next, I want to talk about the soundtrack. Okay, the soundtrack for Digimon, especially Season 1. By the way, I do plan on reviewing Season 2, 3, and 4, and the movies that followed it afterwards. I think they're called Tree Adventure. So I plan on doing a review of that. I will have a Digimon playlist as well. But the introductory soundtrack for Digimon Season 1 is just classic. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Digimon, digital monsters, Digimon are the champions. Change into digital champions to save the digital world. Okay, I'm done. So, moving on. Soundtrack, awesome. First negative I want to talk about. I know, I feel like I'm jumping all over the place. Bear with me. There was 54 episodes, okay? This isn't like Lost where you have 24 episodes and you could just nail the head on everything. There's so much in this show. So, first negative I want to talk about. The show, every single episode starts off with this recap, this refresher of past events. And that's fine and whatnot. I get that this is like a kids anime show and they kind of have to do that. But dear God, could they have picked any other actress that wasn't in puberty with a very loud and squeaky voice to do so for like 99% of the episodes? Listening to that for 15 seconds at the beginning of like every single episode is annoying. Season 2 better not have that same squeaky actress in the middle of puberty doing that. Okay? It became cringe. Okay? So bad. Moving on. Like I said, a lot of people, when the show started off, was comparing this show to two other franchises. Obviously Pokemon and the Chronicles of Narnia. Now, I want to explain that. Because a lot of the character designs, yet they're very similar in terms of Pokemon. Like, there's literally a Digimon that literally looks like Charmander, okay? There's another one that looks like Bulbasaur. So there's clear inspiration from Pokemon. And what I mean by this show having inspiration from the Chronicles of Narnia is that literally the kids get transported into a digital world. They make allies with animals, basically. Sound familiar to like The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe. And they get there via a train. Prince Caspian. Okay? So there's clear inspiration from both franchises. However, I do believe that this show does enough of its own that this show stands on its own 2 feet. Like, it clearly has inspiration from past things. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. But it doesn't, like, necessarily rip them off for the entire show. Like, it has inspiration pulled from them, but it does enough of its own, given that there's 2 worlds, and actions in one of them affects the other. We don't get that in Narnia. We didn't get that in Pokemon. So that's completely new and interesting. So, you got the digital world and you got the human world, and actions in either one can affect the other. So I think that's really cool. Also, there's a lot more horror elements. There's a lot of death of characters in this show. There's more of a focus about family and the bond of friends and friendship rather than fame and glory and The show is also kind of more realistic. It is. It's a lot more realistic than Pokemon. Like when a character dies in Digimon, they're dead until the end of the show, until the end of season 1. They're just dead until the Digidestined defeat the ultimate bad guy. Okay? Unlike in Pokemon, they literally could just take their Pokemon character to a Hell Station and have them fixed in like 7 hours. Okay? That doesn't happen in Digimon. When you're injured for a long time. And when you're deleted and dead, you're deleted and dead. You don't get to resurrect. There's no healing potion. Okay? There's none of that. So it's slightly more realistic. Next thing I want to talk about, like I said, there's 54 episodes. I'm going to be honest, it takes like half of the season before the plot begins. Now, you might be thinking, oh god. So I just need to skip the like first 26 episodes, right? No. Because the first half is a lot of introduction to characters. It's establishing the villains of the show. It's also establishing the lore and the rules for the digital world and how it affects the human world. So the first half of season 1 has to do a lot. It's starting off the franchise. It's introducing to you the rules and the lore and the characters and how things work. Now you might be thinking, dear God, why does it take like 20 plus episodes to do? Because there's so much. Okay? They had a vision that there wasn't just going to be one season. They wanted this to be a multi-season franchise. Obviously, we got that because it was so successful. So the first like 20 plus episodes kind of establishes what Digimon would become for the next, 20, 30 years. The villains of the show are truly terrifying. They're actually a threat. And at times I kind of wanted them to succeed because sometimes why they were doing what they were doing made sense. How they went about it, though, was wrong and evil. Also, I want to talk about the fact that I think the show is best when it was in horror mode, okay? So, when the show wasn't being, stupid or offering dialogue that was so bad it was cringe and it's so cringe that you were laughing, the show was better when it was, like, doing horror-like elements of that nature. So, you would sometimes even have, like, an episode that kind of felt like a Week of the Villain episode, but it was still fun if it had some sort of dark-like moment. The episode's constantly showing the evolution of the Digimon gets old. So you got the Digimon themselves, then they've got the Tier 1 evolution, then they've got their Digimon evolution 3, and then they've got their Ultra mode. So there's 4 different tiers of Digimon, so they can Digivolve 3 times in the show. Now, showing them Digivolve, like 3 times or so, going through their steps, that's fine. The problem is that Digimon didn't understand that you don't need to do that for every single episode, okay? Like, showing it after, like, the 3rd time just gets old. For an example, look at Ben 10. When Ben 10 would use the Omnitrix to transform, and then he would transform into his ultimate version, an ultimate alien, it didn't take, like, a minute of a 20-minute episode to do it, okay? And I feel like, I don't know, it just took too long, it was slow, and instead of using the limited time that they had for every single episode for, like, plot or character arcs or battles, they're using it to show off these Digi-evolutions, and I just don't care to see it over and over and over and over again, okay? So I think that, honestly, it needed to be like, show it like 3 times for their Digi-evolution, and then do a Benten thing where they do the Digi-evolution and it just happens like 2-3 seconds. Like, you can show it, but like speed it up. And I mean, they speed it up for like the last 2 episodes, and I'm like, why didn't they do it for the rest of the show? It really made no sense. Lastly, I want to talk about the fact that the show, like I said, is kind of slow at times. It does take its time to build up to things, and that's because it's building up to an epic showdown. Okay, it's building up to the gigantic conclusion where the show does end with like this Avengers Endgame like battle against this Pennywise like Digimon and the ultimate bad guy of the show that's been causing all the havoc, called Apocalyptomon. And when both Pennywise and Apocalyptomon are defeated eventually by the Digidestined, it leads to a bittersweet conclusion. I don't want to spoil too much in case you guys haven't watched the show, but the show is bittersweet. The season ends up ending. Some spoilers, but I don't want to spoil too much. The season does end where the Digidestined children, they want to stay in the digital world for 4 weeks, and because of the different passage of time in the digital world compared to the human world, 4 weeks equals 110 years in the digital world. So they could be there for 4 weeks in the digital world and not like just die of old age, which is kind of interesting. Unfortunately, something happens and the children end up having to return to the human world. Otherwise, they would be trapped in the digital world forever, and the Digidestined would just die of old age and they would never be able to return to the human world. And so that leads to a bittersweet ending and a really sad goodbye. It also leads to a kind of like memory flashback of things, in a sense, where the final episode deals with kind of like a greatest hits thing, where it's like, hey, remember this? And remember this from like the first episode and the second episode and third episode? And didn't you guys enjoy this? So, it does do one of those memory lane things, these member berries, and I think it does it well. It doesn't go overboard with it. And the moments that they picked, I think, were really well done. And I enjoyed it. I think it was a satisfying conclusion. Season 1 does end the season. So even if you don't watch any more of Digimon, like if you don't watch season 2, 3, and 4, or the sequel films that they made after season 4, you can watch season 1 and have a story where it's a beginning, a middle, and an end, and feel satisfied. Like, it has a very self-contained story, and I'm happy about that. It obviously teases a season 2, but if you don't watch season 2, you're okay, because season 1 has a complete story wrapped up in its 54 episode runtime. So, with that, guys, I'm going to give Digimon Season 1 an 8 out of 10. Like I said, look forward to my review of Season 2 coming out very soon. I will have a Digimon playlist set up, so in case you guys miss it, you guys can check it out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have an excellent day, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye, guys.